Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Backpack Show where Chris Brogan is trying to sort out his lighting situation. So, you're going to be treated to a little taste of what it's like behind the scenes here on the Backpack Show, where we talk about business success and occasionally how you should probably light and produce a show.
Hi, everyone. Tim Kitzer from NBA Jam and NFL Blitz, welcoming you to the Backpack Show. Your hosts, Chris Brogan, Kerry Gargone, Boom Shakalaka.
Backpack Show.
Boom shakalaka.
Oh, that's what I was looking for. Hi.
Do you remember when we had puppies on the show?
I wish we had puppies on the show.
And goats.
Oh, this light is great, except it's the
So-
I have a perfect light, but it's the wrong light.
Your dad beats me at Wordle every day.
My dad is the best at Wordle. He's intense. How does that even happen?
I don't know. Today, I got no breaks on my first 3 guesses or something. And then it took a while. I barely made it under the wire. I almost didn't. I had 2 solid options for my 6th guess. I was concerned.
Yeah, you got it in 6. I got it in 5, but Mr. 3 all the time over there. I don't know.
But yesterday I got it in 2. So I don't know.
So let's just count the good with the bad then. Let's just say that yesterday. That was amazing, right?
I always thought that people lied that when they said they got Wordle in 1, but I did one time. And the funny part is I don't use the same word every day. So it was an actual interesting phenomenon that it happened.
There you go.
Hey, Ed Gale,
Hey, Ed
my new
Gale.
favorite LinkedIn poster. He's writing a really
cool.
cool series about reducing
He is a
tech
great
debt in
post.
Jira.
So we wanted to talk about, we had an idea, and it's probably Dean's fault. We had an idea to talk a little bit about ageism. And it was because my friend Christopher Barger wrote a post about ageism because he had recently left an organization, and he was one of those people on LinkedIn with the little green open for work, and it didn't go super well. And he did not have the best time of it. And he was just sort of sharing what he learned about that. And one of the biggest points he made was that ageism is alive and well. When he shared that post on LinkedIn went cuckoo birds. They were like, oh my gosh, so many comments, so many people. Possibly because he and I and you, and well, not you, but most people are sort of contemporary to our ages. So a lot of people came on and sort of had some thoughts of their own from their own experiences. So that's why we decided to make the topic ageism today. One of the first thoughts I had, thanks, show off. One of the thoughts I had is that we're told all the time that as a society now we are people are working in the workplace for much longer, but that's running up against people not being able to get a job when they're of a certain age. So early initial thoughts on this?
None whatsoever. You tell me, old guy.
Okay, I'll tell you. One of the things I'm thinking
I'm kidding, I do have thoughts.
Oh, all right. Well then, wow. Share your opinions. Why don't you?
Okay. So an anecdote first. One of my very closest friends named Andrea, she's since passed away, never looked her age. She is gorgeous, was gorgeous. She did not believe that we had to physically age. She was very invested in the idea that your mental state affects how much you physically age. She said this because there was a study in the Lancet, I don't know, 100 years ago or something, about a woman who was jilted at the altar when she was 20 and spent the rest of her life in her parents' bed and breakfast looking out the window for her lost love. And people would mistake her for a woman of 20 when she was well into her 50s. And I was like, well, Andrea, she was sitting inside. So it's no sun exposure, probably didn't pick up smoking. So that's a good thing. But anyway, so that was her belief. And she never looked her age. So when we spent years trying to coax her age kind of out of her, my kids used to try to trick her into disclosing her age. She would never do it. Then she got on Facebook. A lot of people did not realize that the default would show your birthday, complete with year. Okay. So at her law office, people were like, Andrea, there is a rumor going around that you are this age. And she said, oh, no, that's not true. And she was able to say that with a straight face because they had it wrong by like a year or something. Like the people were repeating it wrong. They said, I didn't think so. I figured it was wrong. And so then I hid her age on Facebook, and they all went on the assumption that she was about 10 to 15 years younger than she actually was. So,
Well,
yes, there's
so let's
ageism.
bring this into workplace, right? So
Mhm.
when we think of people being of a certain age, Ed points out that he and I are both going to be 54 this year. When we think about that people are of a certain age, it is reflected in the workplace. We can't say that it isn't, people, for instance, if someone's joining as a sort of earlier entry level position and they're of an age, you think, what the heck's wrong with you? Like, why are you here? Like, what journey did you go through that put you back at some entry level, which is so unfair because you could change complete careers and you've got to start somewhere, right? On the other side,
Especially now.
yeah. Well, on the other side, there's some real legitimate things to think about with regards to that, which is that there's different salary requirements. If you're of a certain age, then you have the requirements and sort of the intention that you would make the kind of money that you've been used to making. And so you could pay a younger person less is sort of the way companies think about it. I don't think it's going to be that we can do that for too much longer. I don't think it's going to be, I mean, I know we like legally can't, but I think that, junior roles we're going to have to find some other way to decide whether or not we pay people on a certain level or not. I don't think it's, that someone looks a certain age. I think it's that can they or can't they deliver on those tasks? What do we intend for them to do? And I think that maybe we can make that the next topic is, I think, and this is how I responded to what Chris had posted. I was raised growing and spending my time around my more senior people in my life. Like spent a lot of time with my grandparents. I spent a lot of time sort of trusting the elders of businesses. And I think that's where the biggest like change we can make is. I think the biggest change is that we can start trying to respect and value people's contributions differently. What's your take when you hear any of that?
I haven't seen great success changing anybody's approach or mind about any damn thing, never mind prejudice. So, like, good luck with that. But what I do think is people respond to you and make assumptions about you based on how you look all the time. They're doing it all the time, right or wrong. So, how you present, how you speak about new technologies, about your life in general, about your work is going to give the perception that you are or aren't of a certain age. So that's one thing. And I'm not saying you have to like try to hide your age, but like if you're willing to experiment with new technologies is very different than if you're like, get off my lawn with that magic box stuff. Like, you know what I mean? So that's more the perception. But the other thing I'm thinking is while you're saying this, those entry level jobs for which companies might pay less, a lot of those are the kind of things that AI can do and replace. So you just don't need them. So if anything, people with more experience or the right experience or the right education can come in at a higher level, I think. I think it's where
I can
we'll
agree with
go.
that. I can agree with that. I was listening last night. I'm listening to an audiobook and it's about Warren Buffett. And I was listening to the first time he met Bill Gates, and they're both very particular people, and they sure didn't want to. They don't suffer fools very well. They don't like to spend time with people they don't think they like. They have a very solid opinion on what they think.
They from Boston, are they?
One's from Nebraska and one lives out in Washington State. So at the event, they both were like, I don't want to meet this guy. And they were inseparable from the minute they met. They were just very fascinated by each other's ideas and thoughts and interests. So much so that Warren brought him a young Bill Gates to the Buffett group and talked about some of the big changes that were coming by way of computers. So for instance, one of the people in the room said, how about Kodak? And he was like, sell it. Like Kodak doesn't understand what's going on with digital. Film cameras are going to go away. And they were like, Pasha, which back then, like 1991 or something, that was a crazy thing to say, but it was true. So I'm pointing that out to say that Warren understood enough to know that he didn't know what he didn't know, but that Bill was very happy to go and kind of talk with people who had more wisdom and that he could ask lots of questions. So Bill asked all his like financial questions to Warren. Warren asked all his computer questions to Bill. I think that's where the value comes too. I think the value comes in the fact that we can trade skills and knowledge and learning, and that not everyone has to be versed in everything, but we do have to use the tools of our time, which is what you were saying about the people, with AI and things like that. If we're not using the tools of our time, that's where ageism, is it appropriate? I don't know, but that's where it probably hits the first big wall, don't you think?
Well, I wouldn't even call that ageism. I would, I mean, it might like be related to your age, your attitude about technology, but that in that case, the problem is you're unwilling to adapt the way you're working to become more efficient. And that's always been a problem, right? So, like, I mean, there were whole industries that went away with the advent of the printing press, or when there was like a giant like loom for doing textiles and stuff. Like, people lost their livelihoods, and that's, coming around to some people now. But is it ageism? Not exactly. It's like at that point, the problem is an old way of thinking or some kind of rigidity. That's one thing. On the other hand, you still have people, though, in job interviews where if you come in and you look, I don't know, older, they're going to be like, oh, that's weird. And whether they say it or not, they react to it. And I think those are the problems. We actually, at the company we work at, we have a whole course, and it's mandatory, on interviewing. And it includes tactics and practices for intentionally addressing some unconscious bias. So really working on yourself to unpack and set aside those involuntary subconscious reactions to the extent possible, and focus on the candidate and their qualifications. I'm not sure a lot of other companies do that. So I don't know.
Well, good for us.
Yeah, it's good for us.
I think it's tricky. I fairly recently interviewed somebody who had experience on their side, and I would say that in this case, it was to that person's advantage. Though I was like, this is what I need. I need like a very solid person who has a lot of years of experience doing this thing. There can be reverse ageism, right? Like, I don't think like the person that we needed for this particular role, I was thinking, I can't imagine some 20-something showing up and me thinking this one's really got it figured out.
Well, the law doesn't protect 20-somethings, so
it could go both ways. But I don't think it's fair to make that comment, though, from me, because I think that it's just not the way it works most times.
You don't think about anything the way most people think about things, though. So that's we can't make any generalizations.
Not based on me, you can't.
No.
Oh, I meant to tell you something, by the way. I don't know if you know this, Kerry, but we're sponsored by StreamYard.
Oh, thank you.
I should probably point that out. You want to make a show like this and talk about the topics you think are interesting? cbrogan.net/StreamYard. There we go. I just want to remember. Oh, so I forgot to put the Backpack Show banner on. I'm sorry.
Sure did. Because you're old.
Because I'm old and forgetful. One of the comments that somebody made to me about ageism stuff was to say that they go and they groom their LinkedIn profile to take off a whole bunch of their earlier experiences and all that. And I get it from the ageism point of view. Like, they don't want you to, oh, so you graduated college in 1980. Like, I get where you could go there. But I said, well, the other side of that too is you want to groom it because stuff you did 29 years ago at the hat making factory probably isn't the same, as the other stuff you've done in the last 15 to 20 years. So
yeah, well, when people ask you for your most impressive accomplishment at the job interview, they always mean something recent. They don't want to hear about how you like revolutionized the mail merge back in 1997 at some startup. Like, that's not what they're asking, even if that was impressive at the time. So
we both agree ageism is a real thing and a real problem, right? I mean, that's like a baseline for this conversation.
Yes, but I also think it's part and parcel of prejudice and bias generally. Like, so I knew a woman who was pretty visibly pregnant when she went for interviews for a clerkship and for like legal clerkships, not where the court, but like over the summer, you would go clerk for a firm. And every interview she walked into, their jaws dropped and she did not get any offers. Could you say that was why? Could you prove it? No, probably not. but it was pretty obvious that was a problem. Women in the workplace face a little bit, I don't know how to say this. Ageism for women looks different than it looks for men. That's the other problem. Like, people look at you and they're like, "Oh, look, he's experienced. He knows things. He's been around." If a woman shows up with a head of natural gray hair, I feel like she's immediately at a disadvantage because people don't go, "Wow, she's a seasoned professional." They're like, "Oh, she's old and probably school marmite and going, going out to pasture soon." So a woman in the same situation has to do more to counteract people's bias against her. And like, you'll have to, I don't know, do something, talk about how you went skydiving over the weekend, or I don't know, like, talk about your active hobbies, or you have to make it sound like you're not decrepit. And guys, I feel like, don't always have to do that. Now, I could be mistaken because I'm not a guy, but I've never heard anybody go, Brogan's too old to know anything. But I see plenty of people who go, she's just some old lady out there. Okay, there's an attitude about women of a certain age that I don't think people ascribe to men to the same degree.
That's interesting to think about. So there's a gender bias on top of the age bias, and I think that's true. I mean, oh my gosh, look at Hollywood, right? Like, we can't throw, like, at Hollywood, up until you're, I don't know, 26, then you're the love interest, and then shortly afterwards you're the mom.
There's a whole skit about that. About, right, it's Tina Fey and Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and I'm trying to think who else is in it. Amy Schumer, about a woman's last effable day in Hollywood, the last age at which she can believably play a love interest. Oh, and it doesn't apply to men.
Oh, the world. Okay.
Your dad says the ability to know what you don't know is tricky. I use the Google search AI. Works for me.
Oh, yeah.
Officer Snow says Operation Clean Sweep still holds up on a resume. And your dad says, I used to only use the last 3 jobs or experiences. It was too difficult to explain my long list of life choices.
Oh my gosh. If you think I've had crazy jobs throughout my life, my dad is like the patron saint of it. I learned it from you, Dad. Okay. Hey,
even that joke is dated.
I want to change topics entirely. I do think, okay, so the reason I asked the question I asked and then I forgot to follow up was, so yes, we agree that ageism is a thing. It's real. It's alive and well. And it seems like it's also gender biased because these shiny white hairs make me look professorial, and it doesn't work the same way when you see a woman with silver or white hair. They get treated very differently. I think we got to grab some people on. I think we got to, get some real ageism pros on, and we'll have a real meaty conversation. But we're going to take this on a little more.
I thought you were telling me to go find some old people.
You be quiet.
You're already old. Why do I have to find more?
I'm going to do some things now. Okay, so Dad was talking about using Google and all that, and I was going to point out the fact that right now it is getting cuckoo bird crazy how many different like AI technologies and tools you can use. Yes, that is true. We don't know if that's a real rule, by the way. It's just a very common meme.
Each one of Tom Cruise's wives has been 11 years younger than the last.
I feel like
Rogers,
that
Nicole
Kidman, at a certain vanishing point.
Katie Holmes.
Yeah. We're going to move off of that topic. On the screen right now is Google's version. Is Bing's version. That's why I paused and said the wrong thing, because whoever says the word Bing. Bing uses Copilot, which is OpenAI, which is ChatGPT kind of hidden behind the screen. I came on there and I said really quick, hey, can you draw me a backpack full of ducks? And it failed. But that's sort of the fun of generative AI, right? Is you ask it a question and you say, hey, make me a thing. And they go, yeah, sure. Here's a backpack full of ducks. And
that poor kid. He's never going to be right. Look at those ducks coming after him.
He's got a tough day ahead of him. So what's interesting about this stuff, and where I was kind of going with this, is there's ChatGPT that people know about. There's Bing, which is ChatGPT Copilot, sort of glued into a lot of Microsoft stuff, and that's getting really interesting. The other day, Google just said, forget it, we're not doing Bard anymore. We're going to do Gemini instead. Gemini.google.com. This is Google plus a really strong LLM, large language model. So you can say things like, can you tell me about The Backpack Show with Chris Brogan and Kerry Gargon. Oh, I have to spell your name right, though.
Please.
There we go. Can you tell me about The Backpack Show? And let's see what it comes up with. The difference between ChatGPT and Gemini is that Gemini knows who the web is because it's Google, so it's live searching the web all the time. It's a business podcast that features interviews with guests from a variety of backgrounds and industries. The show's tagline is business success and insights from unique places. That's good. And the hosts aim to bring on guests who have interesting stories and experiences to share, as well as valuable insights that listeners can apply to their own lives and businesses. Oh, Renee, I guess, shouted us out. That's what this poll is from. The show is known for its casual and conversational style, and the hosts often go off on tangents and tell stories that are both entertaining and informative. They also ask their guests thoughtful questions that help them share their expertise and insights in a way that's both engaging and actionable. This is really nice.
Yeah. They like us. That's cool.
Interviews with authors, CEOs, athletes, artists. If you're looking for a business podcast that's both informative and entertaining, The Backpack Show is definitely worth checking out. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and other major platforms.
That's incorrect. I feel like you don't do that anymore.
That's not true, because I stopped doing it. And then evidently you can get it at the website invalid URL So it's pretty good.
Maybe you need a young person to show you how to use websites.
You whippersnappers. So where I'm going with this, ChatGPT, there's a new one. And the only problem with this is I don't think I can show it on my, I almost made a horrible mistake. Yeah, I don't think I can show it on my screen.
I'll just hide your screen.
No, it won't let me do it. So there's a little problem in which it's called Notebook LM. What I'll do, I'll just Notebook LM.
Oh, Michael. Leslie says his definition of older certainly changes. Ain't that the truth?
So I'll bring this guy up for a real quick second. That's a horrible stop point. This is Tiago Forte. He did the thing building a second brain, and he's the first guy I watched doing this. I'm going to turn sound off. There we go. And I'll sort of play it. But what's kind of interesting about Notebook LM is when you get to it, you guys see that, right? Okay. When you get to it, you basically can say, I want to make a new notebook. What makes this different than ChatGPT, but kind of interesting the way ChatGPT is you can say on Notebook LM, I would like to start a new notebook. I'm going to call it whatever the project title is. And then you just hit save or whatever. And then you have to watch Tiago stand here. Okay, so then it drops into this thing. And I'll back it up. So what's kind of neat?
I'm like, if you're going to be on camera, you could shave.
Yeah, I know. Well, he's an interesting lad. He wrote a really great book called Building a Second Brain. He has gone on record as saying this new thing that just launched is where he's going to put his focus on second brain. Let me explain why. The left side, you can put sources, and I think it's like 20 sources. Those sources can be something from your Google Drive, a PDF file, or some copy-paste information. It can hold up to 200,000 words per source.
So you could put like a whole book in there.
Well, so an average, a book is 70 to 80,000 words. So you could put 20 whole books in there. I know this because I put 300,000 or so words into one of mine last night. So what makes this super interesting is you pull those sources on that left-hand side. Then, let me see if I can zoom it up to this. Well, I'll show you he shows sort of pulling in a whole bunch of notes and things like that. There you go. So he grabs a whole bunch of stuff from his Google Drive, starts putting in some sources. But then where it gets really interesting, you get a summary of the source that you've brought in. It gives you key topics of the stuff you brought in. And then what gets really neato is that once you got a bunch of these, you then go to the bottom and you ask a question of it, sort of like, based on everything I just gave you, can you throw me an outline? And it basically will throw an outline together based on your documents that you put in there. So it is, with ChatGPT, you can load, with GPT-4 that you pay money for, you can load stuff into it. With this, you can load it in, query it, ask it all kinds of other stuff, and feed it even more information if you want. So it gets crazy.
How safe is your data? Like, I'm always squirrely about putting any proprietary stuff in there.
That's the best question. You could totally, what they say, now let's trust that the system does what it says it does and that they're not lying to us or whatever. They say that the minute you're done with that note, the stuff all goes away if you want it to. Like they're not going to use it to train anything. It's staying local to your system. Like it's on their servers. So like I would surely not trust, like, I don't know, your company's legal documents on it. But you know, I think it's going to get to the part where we could use it in your private workspaces at work.
So could you put published information in there, like say product brochures, and say, based on all of these, I want to create like a use case. Can you spit some out for this type of people?
For sure. And you can do that all day. And like I said, it's like 20 or so bays worth of 200,000 words each. So if you do just a tiny little bit of work, like you can open a blank Google Doc and copy paste 8 other Google Docs into it and then save it. You could really stack this thing. I put 375,000 words in it. Like I said, that was a lot. Like Google was like, oh, that was a lot of work.
Well, what I was getting at was, so an outline's one thing, but if you want to turn it into something actionable, like a video scripts for a video series or a video strategy or a marketing strategy in general, or I don't know, like an outline for a new book based on some through line from all these sources, like it could do all those things.
100%. And I think that one of the things that Tiago Forte did, for instance, is he put the entire text of his book in it. He said, I will trust this with my book. That tells you kind of how I'm feeling about it, which I thought was, bold. I thought, wow, that's kind of interesting. And then he used it to create an entire full day training. He was hired to do a full day training based on his book. And he just basically said, hey, read my book. Let's do the training. Figure out sort of timing for everything for me. We're going to obviously have a lunch break. We'll probably have a break in the morning, break in the afternoon, starts at 9, ends at 4. And the thing just went, brr, 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 brr. Here's your whole thing. And then he goes, great. Can you go a little deeper for me and actually give me my talking points and curriculum? Sure. Want to help me design some slides? Why not? It was ridiculous. That is all in notebooklm.google.com. That just came out a couple days ago. Came out a couple days ago.
Well, just this week, I was telling you and like everybody else who would listen about Pete Learning. So if you need to develop any trainings, if you are a company, like a small company, and you don't have like an L&D team, let's say, and you want to have training courses either available on your website or to train your own internal teams, this is an insane service. So it uses AI to help you generate an entire course. So first you'll tell it, hey, I want to teach a team of marketers to use monday.com or something. And then it will spit out an outline. And you can give feedback like, this feels kind of academic. Can you make it more folksy? Can you use contractions? Can you use simpler language? Can you make it funny? Can you add a section on X? And it will revise the outline. You approve it. Then it spits out in like 10 minutes an entire course. So narrated video lessons that it's like voiceover slides with, you have to like obviously make it your own once it's generated. But it is dang impressive. And the narration is really good. It's AI generated. It can be based on a specific person's voice. So if you're an influencer or you want the CEO of your company to be the voice of your trainings, it can take in source material and generate the whole thing. I think the influencer podcaster, they had a lot of podcasts of hers to bring in, but her energy level was different on the shows than they would like it for training. So she did like 2 minutes of read and then spit out the whole narration, and it sounded really good. So it's amazing. So if you need to generate any kinds of training at scale, I'm not saying you just like take this and use it. You're responsible for any like copyright infringements or mistakes. So you want to check everything, of course, replace images, brand the thing, but you can pull it into the LMS you're already using, anything you want, add interactions, do stuff with it. It is incredible. It'll get you like 75 to 80% of the way there and save you days. So anybody who's not interested in using AI to help make their work faster, that's what's going to sink you. It's not going to be a couple gray hairs, I don't think.
You're getting to the point that you're a cuckoo bird if you don't use some of these things. Like Dean points out, Dean says, I'd like to list the list of Bard and all these. So by the way, Bard's gone. So there you go. Take that one off your list because Bard embarrassed Google and Google went, oh no, and they like hired a few thousand more people, and so now there's Gemini. I'll tell you the difference between all three of those right there: Gemini, ChatGPT, and Notebook. Right now, ChatGPT is a great cognitive learning partner. So with GPT-4, sort of like Notebook LM, you can load it full of stuff and say, hey, teach me based on this, or help me extrapolate ideas based on this. So that's what you could do with ChatGPT. You can also have it like be a real draft workhorse. You could say, I need a table of contents for a book about this. And then you can work with that, tweak it, say, okay, here's my revised table of contents. Can you give me a chapter description for each of these? It can do a lot of stuff fast. Gemini is anytime you actually also want the live web. So I went on it today and I said, hey, can you show me which AppFire products run on Monday.com? And it gave me a list. It was an imperfect list, but it gave me some of the list. And I was like, okay, cool. With all of these tools, you have to remember that there's an accidental opportunity for what they call professionally hallucinations. And also there's things that could go wrong, but at least you can start somewhere. And then you can
it's
ask
like an intern, though. If you tasked an intern with something, you wouldn't just take it and throw it up on your website as is. Like, you would obviously check it, right? Because they don't have the years of experience and the context that you have. So obviously, check anything you get from any of these tools and make it correct and make it up to your standards. But it's just time saver. It gives you a head start.
So my dad asked the question, hey, is there a plant-based cooking AI? I would like to guess yes. Okay.
Like all of them, right?
Yeah. So here's ChatGPT. Forget everything we were talking about. I need you to be a nutritionist. I want to make affordable and easy plant-based meals.
I don't want to spend any more than 30 minutes on meal prep.
I want to spend no more than 30 total minutes on meal prep. I live in Las Vegas. I want to give you a $100 a week budget. I'm okay with a menu that mixes, that switches 3 meals for breakfast, for lunch, and for dinner.
Do you like spicy or not spicy?
You don't. So I'm going to say I don't like a ton of spices. Can you recommend a menu? Enter. Douche. Here's your menu. Oatmeal with fruit, smoothie bowl, avocado toast, chickpea salad wrap, quinoa salad, veggie stir fry, bean tacos, pasta primavera, baked sweet potatoes. Great.
Can I turn this into a shopping list?
On that, can you make me a grocery list?
And recipe, right? Recipes.
Built on the organized by where in the store I might likely find all the things.
This is fun.
Yeah, here's your recipes. Here's your produce. Here's your grains. Here's your dairy. Here's your pantry. Here's blah, blah, blah. I liked the idea for, what did they say for breakfast? I liked the idea for a smoothie bowl. The smoothie bowl. Can you give me a recipe? Sure. By the way, I used to pay somebody $200 or $300 a month to do this, and he was great. But look, it's all handled.
And if you're not happy with the output, you just correct it. Like, hey, listen, I actually hate mushrooms, so can you do this without any mushrooms? And they'll spit it back out. It's just like if you wanted to build courses, you could do the same thing. Be like, you know what? I think we're getting a little too in the weeds here. Back it up. Let's go more 101, and it will adjust for you. It's like amazing. I think it's an incredibly exciting time. I can see where AI is scary for some folks, but it's going to save everybody a lot of time on some really boring stuff.
So my dad's pointing out something that Samsung offers, which is a food AI app. Right. So one of the things that food AI app, does is it acts like a glass kitchen, like a glass refrigerator. It like puts the lights on inside your fridge and goes, "Here's what you guys got." And I always make the joke, you know what else you can do is just open the door. But if you have a Samsung kind of environment, you could do that.
Plant-based, says Dean. Why do you hate America? That's what ChatGPT. I think it'd be great if you asked ChatGPT what the difference is between all those different services, and it was like, I'm the best.
They do say reasonably friendly and nice things about each other, which I find kind of interesting. So,
Sorry, Michael.
sorry,
I'm
Michael.
hungry too. I'm always hungry.
Walter said, why am I using
3.5?
4? Well, because I don't need to use 4 to ask it about a recipe. I use 4. All right, let's go back. Hang on. Hold your horses, young fellow. If
AI
I click
is no
on
scarier
4,
than the internet was in 1998. You're so right.
I have an investment insight partner. And now I can say, based on all the files I gave you, why does Charlie Munger say that EBITDA is bullshit? Watch that time ticking away, because GPT-4, baby, do so slow. Searching my knowledge.
Why is it so slow?
It's so slow because it's reading approximately 200,000 words that I gave it, and it's thinking through it all and trying to make sure it gives an answer that meets all the rule criteria that I gave it. I mean, I'm just answering the question, why not GPT-4? This answer is correct. He criticizes EBITDA. He says it's a measure of business performance that argues that it can be misleading. This is a solid answer. But to answer the question, why not GPT-4, there are times when 3.5 is way faster. So that's why.
And you're impatient.
And that's what we're, to Dean's point and to the comment about ageism, that's where we got to start thinking. Like 2012 or so, BlackBerry was still the thing. There was people using iPhone, but it still wasn't the thing. And then by a certain point, finally everyone went, fine, we'll use glass. We'll give up our keyboards. The faster you get to understanding that certain things are inevitable, are as fast as we're going to, like, we have to be able to turn to things that move faster. So it's
getting real,
where you have to know when to use Gemini, you have to know when to use Notebook, you have to know when to use GPT-3 versus 4. So there's things about it, there's different tools for different things. OpenAI just announced a text to video thing yesterday called Sora. It is amazing looking. And you could just type a couple words and you get a pretty good output from it. So we all have to kind of get there faster is one of the key takeaways from this sort of a thing.
If my name was Jaeger, I would use it all the time. I'd just be like, I'm Jaeger. And I'd be like Bono, but just Jaeger. Such a cool name, Walter.
Yeah, well, it's German for
I'm going over your face. Hold on. I've previously used ChatGPT as a data aggregator to help me become an expert in a particular subject in a short amount of time. Do you think the future of work could be fewer people, more people that are LLM fluent, and virtual agents to help answer questions? For basic stuff, sure. I even think for more sophisticated questions like medical diagnoses, it could take a first pass and somebody else could confirm with like a physical diagnosis or something. I mean, there's a lot of potential. I don't see it replacing people in every context. I don't think that's going to happen, but I do think it's going to become like your first stop for stuff. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I agree. I'm going to agree with that. I think what's going to happen more truly is that we're not going to talk about it as much soon. I think very soon we're just going to be like, we just use it. And we're not going to talk about it. Like, you never say, I'm going to get my phone that uses glass to type into. You would seem really insane if you talked like this.
So it used to be a joke. Like, I remember in Sex and the City, the HBO series, somebody hands one of the main characters an iPhone to make a call. And she's like, I don't know how to use this. And someone brings her a flip phone. Like, that was some funny thing. Like, these were some stupid fad that were going to go away.
Right.
They did not.
So what we're looking at while we're talking is OpenAI Sora. This is all text to video. So this is, you type that prompt, a giant towering cloud in the shape of a man looms over something or other. Or this one, a Samoyed and a golden retriever playfully romping through a futuristic neon city at night. This kind of stuff, you could spit it right out with a prompt. So like if you needed B-roll for your show or whatever, like it's this fast. That's where stuff goes.
Should you check it? Yes, to make sure that you're not like pulling in somebody's copyrighted material, that you're not showing somebody's trademark in like a bad light or at all, that there's not an actual person in there that didn't sign a release. Like, you have things to consider. not the least of which is that you can't copyright AI generated stuff in the United States, at least. So if you're at all concerned about the value of the asset you're creating and using it to make money, don't use this. But if you don't care, like if you sell, I don't know, French fries, and you're telling it, take my French fries and show them, I don't know, whatever, taking a trip around the world, fine, because you don't care. People are going to buy your French fries, not your videos. So, just
Or
keep
if
it
you're
in mind.
making a YouTube video and you don't care if someone steals this piece of your YouTube video because you can't defend it, that's also fine, right? I mean,
yeah, I'm just saying be realistic about what you can and cannot protect. It is important. But also the investment you're putting into creating this, it's pretty low. Like it's
right.
easy. So if somebody takes it, well, okay, fine. They took your 2-second effort you put into making a prompt. Like, it's just not as bad. How are you even
Right.
going to pick a person of the day today? I don't know.
It's you.
It's
Sip. Oh
me.
my gosh. That's telecom talk.
You love your telecom
So
talk.
such an initiation protocol. So that's terrible. I was saying to Randall, Randall was talking about he might rewatch the movie Dune. We were just talking randomly about dumb stuff. He said, I might rewatch the movie Dune. I said, you probably should, just to get yourself super psyched up, because Microsoft Flight Simulator now has a thing where you can download the ornithopter in Doom. And I was like, oh, I would like to learn how to fly that thing that Paul crashes near 2/3 of the way through the movie. Nerds. So, okay, we're out of here. Ageism, AI
Schools
is
that punish
important.
students for using these tools have got it all wrong. I agree.
Schools have it all wrong. Period, I think. So, person of the day, huh? You're person of the day. Hey, Kerry, let's throw something new in the backpack. What do you want to put in the backpack today? You cannot use your 2 samples that you use every day. So you can make something new. Thank you, Chloe.
Curiosity. It's a curiosity. That's the reason I'm here. That's the reason I have evolved in my career to the extent that I have, is only my curiosity. When I was growing up, my mom, like she told me this later, I used to ask her ridiculous questions like, Mom, when you were my age, what did you think? And what did you want to do with your life? And she was like, this is bizarre, but that's who I am. And that's also the same thing that drives me to look at things like Pete.com, like ChatGPT, and figure out how to make things better. So curiosity.
Michael wants to put lunch in the backpack. You can.
So the ducks have something to eat.
So I'm gonna put a journal in the backpack. I'm gonna put my journal because.
Well, didn't nobody ask you, old man?
Well, we both get to put one in the backpack, you monkey face head. So.
Okay,
I know.
I'll allow it.
All right. Okay, good. Didn't you say your uncle Phil was talking all about using AI kind of tools? Like, wasn't he? Oh, he was a musician, so wasn't he learning how to do music through AI? I think it was.
He was more thinking that he could like have Beyonce in